Hello there and welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at the Blagdon Amphibious IQ range of energy saving pond pumps. Now I don't normally do videos on pond pumps purely because they're always just used for moving water from one place to another, and that's not very interesting. However, this range of pond pumps is very different from everything else in the market at the moment. It has quite a large amount of innovations and new features which I haven't seen on pond pumps previously, and I think this sets it apart from others on the market at the moment. And because of this, I'm going to have a look at this pump in more detail. Now, the main selling point of this pump is the fact that it has a controller unit. Now this is a very clever controller unit, I'll go into that a bit later. But the main point about it is it allows you to adjust the running wattage of your pump. So there are 4 different pumps in the range. You have a standard pond, which I would have thought means small pond, a medium, a large pond and an extra large pond. Here are some of the details for the flow rate of the different size pumps and the head height of the different pumps. Now you'll notice that the head height on these pumps is incredibly high, and that's another feature of these pumps. They've got an innovative new impeller system which allows the head height to be massive compared to other pumps at a similar or lower wattage. So let's have a look at the pump itself. Now firstly, the thing that struck me about this pump is it just looks really nice. I think it's got a very modern design and it's just different to everything else you're going to see on the market. It has a cross-shaped body but it's also kind of squarish, but this does allow you to place it almost any way up that you'd like, which can give it a little bit more functionality in your pond, because most pumps have a right way and a wrong way to be up. This one though can go any way you want. I'll just talk briefly about these holes in the pump itself. Now a lot of pumps have cases around them which are for solid handling, and this is obviously the same thing, but not all pumps have holes equally distributed all the way around the pump. The holes are completely around the case itself. There isn't much of the case which doesn't have holes in them, and that means even flow throughout the whole casing unit into the pond pump. It also means if there's a blockage in one section of the casing, the flow rate shouldn't be affected too much because there's a lot of area still unblocked. Another thing is these raised edges here, and that's to help to prevent leaves and debris sticking to the case itself. Another feature that I really like about this pump is the fact that it's incredibly easy to open. I don't know if you've ever dragged a pump out of a pond after a couple of months. Well, they're covered in rubbish and it's a horrible job to actually get into the pump itself. Well, with this one it's just simply a matter of 2 clips. You can see there it's just 2 clips holding it in place, and once they're undone, access to the pump itself is granted. So now it's open, we'll just have a little look at the impeller and actually what drives this pump. It's a really big meaty impeller and it can handle solids. Now a lot of the better pond pumps can handle solids, that's nothing new, but it is something you do desire on a pond pump. The last thing you want to go in there is some leaves or a little bit of stick and the pond pump to jam. So there are a few things to note about the impeller housing. Firstly, it's clear. And this is great because it allows you to diagnose the health of the impeller without having to undo the impeller housing. So this is basically a time-saving feature. You can just take your pump apart, have a quick look, work out whether the impeller is jammed, whether it's dirty, whether it's damaged, and you can act accordingly. Now also, the shape of this impeller housing is very special. It has a very unique shape and it is narrower on one side than it is on the other. So what this means is there is a higher pressure on one side of the impeller housing than there is on the other. And this creates a high pressure water area. And this means you can create a higher flow rate in comparison to other similar wattage asynchronous pumps. You basically get more flow rate and therefore more power and water output for a lower wattage, and therefore an energy saving, which means more money in your back pocket. It actually uses about 30 to 50% less energy for the same amount of flow rate compared to similarly priced pumps. So I'm just going to plug the unit in now and I'm going to show you some of the features that is controlled by the brain box here. First, I'm going to go through some of the safety features. Now, this one has 3 identifiable safety features. The first one is basically if you run this pump dry, it will turn on and it will try and run, and it's got a sensor in there and it knows the difference between air and it knows the difference between water. Without any water around it, it will run and then it will turn off. Now, it'll try and do this about 6 times, and after that it will shut the unit off completely. But the interesting point is, on here on the screen, it will tell you that the pump's out of water. Now, it has a really interesting self-diagnostic system. It basically can kind of sense what's wrong with the pump. So there's 3 of them. Firstly, as mentioned, the dry running. Secondly, it has one where if the impeller is jammed with something, it will try and move. If it can't do that, it will then stop the unit, and then it will tell you on the display that the impeller is jammed. The third one is a sensor which will tell the unit whether there is power running through the cable into the pump. If there's nothing, or there's a problem with the power, so say you're doing digging in the garden and you've cut through your power lead, it will sense that and it will tell you on the unit that there's a problem with the power getting to your pump. So there's 3 common faults which happen quite frequently with pumps that you don't have to dig your pump out of your pond to diagnose. It will tell you directly on the unit. So that's a time-saving feature straight away. So I'll just show you those now. So I'll plug the unit in and let it fire up. Now, to begin with, it will think it's in water. You'll see it's at 6 watts there. And then it will ramp up to its max, but then it will go straight back down to 6 because now it knows it's not in water. But maybe it's going to be put in water, so it will keep running. So it will keep running dry. And for these pumps, this isn't actually a problem. They're perfectly happy being run dry for a bit. They don't tend to overheat. So now it's stopped, and on the display it will say low, add water. So that is an incredibly effective way of diagnosing your pump, and it means that you know from your plug socket what's wrong with your pump. So when it's jammed, it will say motor jammed, clean impeller or clean rotor, so you know that your impeller's dirty or it needs a stick taking out of it. So before I actually get into the meat of it and turn the pump on and we can see it running, just going to have a little look at the controller unit itself. Has an anti-glare display, so useful if you're out on a sunny day. 3 big obvious buttons, so plus is plus the wattage, minus the wattage, and you've got a go and a pause button. Big heatsink on the back, so it'd be very hard to overheat this unit. It's also got a screw mount in there which will allow you to place it practically anywhere you like. It's water resistant, so you can put it outside without worrying about it getting wet as well. So let's turn it on and I'll go through some of the features it has as an actual pump, because so far we've described everything except for what it's supposed to do, and that's move water from one place to another. So I'm going to turn it on now, and what you'll see is the pump unit will ramp up from 6 watts all the way to 60 watts, and that's because these pumps have a soft start feature. Alright. So as you can notice, it's quite a large head height, and that's at the 60 watts. Now I'll bring her down, and you can see you can adjust all the way between 60 and 30. And that's a lot more controllable, a lot softer flow. And now before my patio gets completely soaked, I'll just turn it off. So traditionally, adjusting flow like that would have been done via a ball valve. Now ball valves are fine, but they don't offer the same kind of features that this control unit will allow you to do. So firstly, a ball valve works by restricting flow. So even though the pump will still be going at full power, the flow is restricted, and that's what causes the output to be less. So the main benefit of this one is the fact that you're not restricting the flow of the pump, you're actually turning the pump wattage down. So that's a saving of energy. An example of why you would use this is, for instance, in the winter, you don't want your pump going as fast as you do during the summer, so you just turn it down to 30 watts, and you've effectively halved your energy cost. But also, not everybody wants their pumps running at full power. If you want this to run a small waterfall, for instance, at full power it might just be kicking out too much flow. And the fact that you can change the wattage, it will allow you to tailor your individual water features however you like. So I'm thoroughly wet now, and so is everything around me. But I thought you might enjoy me showing you this pump because it is very different to everything else so far on the market for ponds. There is one more feature which I'm not going to show you, but I will mention in passing, and that is the fact that this pump can be run as an aquarium pump. It can be run dry as a system pump, basically. So you take all this casing off, and then there is another hose towel which screws onto the impeller inlet, and it will allow you to run this pump in a system. So you put a tube going in that way, your flow comes out that way, and the pump itself isn't in any water. Now that is an amazing feature, and that's actually how I'm going to be using this. I'm building a fish room, and this pump's going to be my main system pump. What a cool little feature. So thank you for watching. I hope this video has been interesting and just shown you a new bit of technology. The aquarium and pond market is always changing, and it's really good to see some innovative designs coming out on the market, just really pushing how far the aquatics industry can go. If you liked this video, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this kind of content. Thanks for watching, and happy fish keeping!